Welcome to our lesson on modulus function. Okay, so this is going to be a lesson that introduces modulus function and also solves several examples on modulus function. All right, so let's start with the idea of a modulus function. All right, so when we say modulus or modulus, however you might want to pronounce it, it means absolute, and absolute means always positive. Okay, so for example, of course, note that this is the sign that we use to denote modulus or absolute. Okay, so for example, if you have the modulus or the absolute of 4 of negative 4, it means the answer is 4. Okay, so even if you put a negative inside these two signs, the answer that comes out is always positive. Okay, so when you also put a positive inside, the answer that comes out is going to be a positive answer. Okay, so that is the idea. It means when you put this absolute sign around a number, the answer is always positive. So that is what modulus is. Okay, so what is a modulus function? Let's see how that is done. Okay, so let's say that a function is defined as x. Okay, a normal function, y is equal to x. It's a normal function. So as soon as you put the absolute sign on the x, it means you have made it a modulus function. Okay, all right, so you might want to define the function that, okay, this is a modulus function. The answer is always positive, no doubt about that. But what could this x mean? The x could be a positive number. Okay, this x could also be 0. That if you want to put 0 there, it's fine. You could put a positive number there, it's fine. You could also put a negative number there. Okay, so when it is less than 0, that's a negative number, you could also put there. This is telling us that what you put inside this absolute sign could be positive number, could be 0, or could be negative. Any is allowed. All right, so how do we actually solve a modulus equation? All right, so let's start with an example. We have the absolute value of 3x minus 2 is equal to 10. Okay, now know that there are 3 instances. We said that it could be positive, it could be 0, it could be negative. Okay, but what we do know is that 3x minus 2 is not a 0. This is not a 0. Okay, this 0 means nothing, but this is something. Okay, it can't be 0. So there are only 2 outcomes here. This could be a positive number or a negative number. Okay, it could either be a positive number or a negative number. All right, okay, so if this is a positive number, then we can say that, okay, so let me take the first part. When what we have is a positive number, it means that what we have, that's 3x minus 2 is equal to 10. Okay, that is if it is a positive number. All right, how about, okay, so if it's a positive number and we solve for x, okay, so we transpose this 2 to the other side of the equation. Okay, or you can just say you add 2 to both sides, or you can just say that you move this negative 2 to cross the equal to sign to become positive 2. That will give you 12. All right, so 3 divided by 12 will give you 4. So we know x is 4. All right, so the second part is that this can be negative. Okay, so if this is negative, how do we solve it? All right, so if this is negative, it's the same as saying that, okay, I will not negate this, but rather I will negate the 10, and which is the best way to go about it. Okay, so the first part that you will solve, make whatever is on your right side positive, and then the second part, make it negative and also solve for x. All right, so we will move this 2 to cross the equal to sign to become plus 2, it will mean that what we have here will be negative 8, okay? And then we solve for x, and so x will be negative 8 over 3, okay? Over 3, sorry, I made it over 2, but that should have been 3. All right, but you are not done. You are left with one more thing. You want to test the answers that you have if it will satisfy the modulus equation. If it does satisfy the equation, then you are done. Okay, so let's test it. All right, so these are the answers that we got. Now, pardon me for this, is an error that I've made, and it will run through this particular example, but the subsequent one, it will not run through. Okay, so this is the modulus function that we have. What we do is that we will put 4 into the function and see if the answer will certainly be 10, okay? So let's put 4 into the modulus, and then, so that would be 3 into 4 minus 2, okay? But 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 minus 2 is 10. So we have the absolute of 10, and that will actually be equal to 10, okay? So the absolute of 10 is indeed 10. That means that the answer x equals 4 is correct. That is what we are looking for. All right, but when you put this into the function, you would not get negative 14. The absolute of negative 14 is actually 14, and that is not equal to 10, okay? So we will not take the second answer. Therefore, the answer that we are going to accept is x equals 4. All right, let's take another example. That is 2x minus 5 over x plus 3. The absolute of this is equal to 8. So like I said, the first part is when you equate this same thing by removing the absolute sign, you equate it to 8. And then the second part, you equate it to negative 8. So you always equate to positive and then you equate to negative. That's how we solve modulus function. Okay, so that's the part A. Let's equate it to positive 8, okay? All right, then this denominator will go and multiply the 8. So this is what we would do. Okay, so the part A, I told you, equate it to positive 8, and the part B, equate it to negative 8. Then in both cases, you solve for x. So let's solve. So we are starting with the part A. Like I said, after equating this to positive 8, this denominator will multiply the 8. So that is what we do. Then we expand the bracket. Okay, so that will be 8x plus 24. Okay, then we group like terms and then we solve for x. Okay, so what will happen is that the positive 8 will come here to become negative 8. So 2 minus negative 8 will give us negative 6, and then this 5 will come and add to the 24, and that will be 29. So x is equal to negative 29 over 6. Okay, so let's check for the part B. That is when we equate the same thing to negative 8, then we will use the denominator to multiply the negative 8. So this is what we have. Also, we would expand the bracket. So let's expand. We will get negative 8x, then negative times positive is negative. Keep that one in mind always. So we have negative 24. We group like terms again. All right. So the 8 will cross the equal to sign to become positive 8. The negative 5 will go to the other side, become positive 5. So we will get this is 10. Okay, so 10x, and this is negative 19. Hence x is equal to negative 19 over 10. Now the next thing that we do, remember we have two different answers. Are we going to accept both this and that, or we are going to accept one of them? It is only the testing that will tell us what to do. So let's test. So we are going to test these two answers, right? So we will have to put the answers back into the modulus function and see if the answer will be 8. Okay, so let's do that. We put negative 29 over 6 in there. What do we get? We get 8. Now the absolute of 8 is 8, so that is true. Okay, so this is an answer, we are accepting it. How about this? Let's test it. All right, so we'll put it into the modulus function, and then what do we get? We get -8, but the absolute of -8 is what? Is 8, so we will accept this one too. Okay, that means that the solution is both this and that. Example 3 is when we have 1 plus then a quotient. Okay, it's a bit different, but how does it work? It works the same way. We will equate this whole thing to the +3 for the first part, then the second part we equate this whole thing to a -3. Okay, then we solve for x in both cases. So let's do that. All right, so this is part A. Like I said, we equate the whole thing to +3. Okay, then what do? We move this one to become a -1 here. Okay, so when you subtract 1 from the 3, you have 2. Then the denominator will go and multiply this 2. We have this, then we expand the bracket, so we have 2x and then 8. Then we solve for x. Okay, we solve for x, and x is 4. All right, then we test it. Are we going to accept this 4? Let's see. We put 4 in place of x. Okay, and then we have 2 plus 3, 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Okay, but remember that this will give us 3, so we have the absolute of 3. But is the absolute of 3 3? Yes, hence this is an answer that we are going to accept. All right, so let's solve for the part B, where we will equate the same thing to -3. Okay, so for part B we shall equate it to -3, and that is what we have done. All right, so we solve for x. Okay, so we solve for x. Now x is what? X gives us -28/5. So we must test it to decide whether we will accept it or reject it. So let's do the test. Okay, so we will put this same answer into the function, the absolute function, and see if the answer will be 3. Okay, and when we did, we got, if you evaluate the whole of this, you will get -3, and the absolute of -3 is what? Is 3. Hence we can also accept this.